Right, I'm gonna go grab lunch with my parents. I'll go on the other side, more room. Did you know I learned to fly helicopters here? Well, not here, but over the other side of the airfield. That was a little while ago, and it was a very, very expensive experience. I'm feeling a little bit queasy because I was stupid enough to try and put this elasticy bandage thing on my foot whilst my mum was driving along. And I'll tell you what, the older I get, the quicker and easier I seem to get motion sickness. Or maybe I'm just not used to being a passenger in a car. Probably that. Anyway, let me show you this place. I love it. It's got a kind of retro Aviator vibe, funnily enough. It was exorbitantly expensive, like £250 an hour to train in a little two-seat thingy. Ouch. My dad just mentioned that I could maybe get fixed wing, which would be much more useful and half the price and go twice as far or 50% quicker. Problem is it's still very expensive. You know what we need, Dad? We need electric propulsion on these things. I'd almost forgotten how awesome helicopters are. Wow. You know, if they did do electric helicopters and it reduced that servicing requirements, they could be a lot cheaper just because of the electric motor's simplicity. Big fan of Seoul Aerodrome, definitely. So anyway, electric helicopters and planes. The big issue is the battery. Luckily, I know some electric car manufacturers that are working on making them a little bit more power dense and light. Yeah, that's where electric motors really come into their own, you know, Dad. You know, you were saying about how fixed wing you've got more range and less cost and faster.
You will with electric as well.
Well,
it's the fundamental principles of flying, the way wings work.
It is, but with one caveat. What's so great about the electric motor is it can do more than one thing. It doesn't have to be designed specifically for the job at hand. So you can actually build an efficient aircraft that can take off and land vertically, but can transition into forward flight and have the same efficiency or nearly the same efficiency as with a fixed wing. The great thing about electric motors is they're so flexible. You know, they run as efficiently at low speed as they do at high speed. That's why you don't need gearings in an electric car, for example. The difference is, right, if you took, say, the Osprey, it's got two great big engines on there, right? If you were to take those and turn it into 6 much smaller ducted fan engines, servicing costs would go through the roof. The complexity probably wouldn't even have the power to lift itself. So you wind up in a, you know, designing something that can't exist. But if you use electric motors, you can do exactly that. You can take 2 big ones and turn it into 6 smaller ones, and provided the power adds up to the same, you'll have the same amount of thrust. You look at a lot of the sort of flying taxi type drone concepts, for example. Some of them tilt the motors and have flying surfaces, wings. I'm heading home now. Bye, Daddy-o.
Does it still line up properly?
Probably not. Tesla are famous for not having panels that line up perfectly. Yep, there are some very exciting things coming in the world of electric aviation, and it's basically driven by 2 things. You've got the improvements in computer, you know, microprocessors and you know, electronics generally, which is sort of driven forwards by things like drones, and it's essential because most more forward-looking and interesting electric aircraft designs they're all basically fly by wire. They rely on, working electronics, or you have no real control authority over the vehicle. That's kind of okay because electronics are becoming so reliable and so cheap that you can put redundancies in, multiple redundancies if you need. And the other advance is coming from electric cars. It's driven by the improvements in batteries and power electronics that have arisen from electric cars and the R&D dollars that are going into bigger, more powerful, lighter batteries and motors and inverters and things like that. And it's coming together to really make me quite hopeful that in the future there are going to be some very interesting and considerably cheaper, hopefully, electric aircraft options out there. Which would be great, because I would love to get back into the seat of a helicopter one day. Because what happened was, basically, I passed my PPLH and then realised that I just didn't fancy spanking £1,000 per weekend on what's effectively a joyride. You know, it's just prohibitively expensive, which is unfortunate because I love flying. But it's very, very difficult to do anything that isn't really pricey with it. Hopefully the price will come down, and then I'll be able to get back in the seat. I'd need a new medical, and then I have to pass a proficiency check and get a rating for an aircraft that's a little bit more useful and interesting than an R-22, which is a little two-seat helicopter, basically the go-kart of the skies, and yet still expensive, despite the fact that it's basically not useful for anything more than as a trainer aircraft. Unfortunately, as with anything aviation, it takes a long time for change to come, similarly to space, you know, because its failure is very expensive and costly and not good. So obviously there's a fair degree of caution there. Also, when it comes to electric powered aviation, there is still quite a bit of improvement needed in the weight and energy density of batteries, and power density as well to some degree, although that's less of an issue. So good news is the electric car industry is busy working on it, and I have no doubt they will get there shortly. So thank you Tesla, Nissan and everybody else who's working on bigger, better batteries. See, the problem with technology generally is until you get to the point where there's a minimum viable product, so to speak, very little real research gets done, or development rather, into actual potentially viable commercial products, because there's nothing to help fund that. You know, so for example, look at electric cars. You know, you had a minimum viable product with things like the iMEV and the original Nissan Leaf. Certainly, definitely fits that criteria. Obviously, the Tesla Roadster, the first one of those, that was certainly a minimum viable product for an expensive sports car, which is where the development money came from to help get us from there to here, and also help us get further on, because now of course the many more viable electric vehicle products are out there. So I expect the R&D to pick up pace, but for a long time when it comes to aviation, they've not had that minimum viable product, because if they put batteries in a plane, if it could fly at all, it would only be in the air for minutes, not barely long enough to do one circuit and land again. You know, now you do have things like two-seat trainers, which companies like Airbus have produced as a sort of, you know, a technology demonstrator, but they're heading in the direction of actually being able to produce and sell viable electric aircraft. When it gets there, that's when the development will really start to pick up with these things, and hopefully you'll get a nice synergy between development of batteries and motors and inverters for aircraft, and batteries, motors and inverters for cars as well. I think I've said everything I want to say about electric flight, and I've just got this drive home now. Should be fine, be fun. Nice of Soph to be able to pick Jasper up today. That's made my life much easier. Just generally, actually, it's been nice to have a you know, a day or two where I'm sort of free. I need basically what I need in really to make life a bit more doable from a vlogging point of view is I need 2 days of the week where Jasper is picked up by someone else and looked after for a couple of hours, just to give me a proper length day so that I can go places and do stuff. Been saying I need it for a while, and I do. I'm going to say goodbye now because I've just basically got a load of driving to do, and then I go home and say hello to the family. So I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog post and found it interesting. If you have, remember to like it, share it and subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Instagram if you don't already, and I will see you tomorrow for the next instalment of my daily vlog. Bye.
You know, you go to France and you don't take off from your garden, you take off from wherever it's...
Yes, but when you have an electric plane that you can take off and land vertically, you do take off from your garden. You don't need fuel because you've got power.
The same problems the monkeys say.
No, you haven't.
Take off vertically from your garden, you're back with helicopters.
No, you're not.